This conference will now be recorded.
Very good. Let's see, as yesterday we were discussing the data modeling. Okay, so the purpose of the data modeling is how to create a column, how to create a how to create a column, how to modify the column, how to create a table, how to create the relation, how to manage the database. In a simple word, the answer for all these questions is data modeling. So that is what we discussed yesterday. Then we have seen the comparison between these. After that, we started with the model classes. Model classes are generated based on the *item.xml definition. Okay, so then what it contains? It contains the set methods, get methods, and variables. And finally, what is the purpose of this model classes? The purpose of the model classes is we can insert the record, we can update the record, we can delete the record. So therefore, if you have database like this, then this is how you have the model class. That's it. That is what we have seen yesterday. And yesterday we have seen how to create the customer also. Let's say this is what a customer we have. Then from the back office, you will click on the plus symbol, then the equivalent code. Then after that, you enter the data, then the equivalent code. Finally, you perform the done button. So the equivalent code. So like this is also we discussed. Okay, all right. Today, let's continue some scenarios. So the entire day we'll continue with the scenarios. Scenarios is, let's say I want to create a requirement. Scenario is we want to create employee, employee type or table with 3 columns. This is a requirement. What is the requirement? So we want to create employee type or table with 3 columns. This is the requirement. Then how to do? Let's understand. Okay, so I will take this diagram here so that we can save some time instead of writing from scratch. Can you see this one, please? You need to observe this one, please. So the requirement is we want to create a table with 3 columns. That is the requirement. So that means, let's say we have a Oracle database. There we want the employee table with the employee ID, employee name, employee salary. So this is the requirement we have. We want to create a employee table. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so the requirement is we want to create a employee table with the 3 columns: employee ID, employee name, employee salary. That is the requirement. If that is the requirement, step number 1. Okay, where do I do the changes? You can go to the *item.xml file. Okay, you can go to the *item.xml file and write the code or design. So step number 1, you can see I am going here. So maybe let me take this as a little bit of bigger. Okay, I will take this. Do you see this bigger now?
Yeah, Chenna, it's fine.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so let's take this. So the requirement is how to create a table with 3 columns. That is the requirement. Then step number 1 is you need to go to item.xml file. Any item.xml file you can go. So generally we will go to one specific item.xml file that I will show you. For now, let's say you can go to *item.xml file. Then you can write item type. Code equal to employees. And there is something called deployment. We will discuss the deployment. Then attributes are nothing but the columns. What are the columns we want? Employee ID, employee name, employee salary. Employee ID, employee name, employee salary. So this is how I will write the code. Can you see this one, please? So you can go to the *-item.xml file. You can go to the *-item.xml file and say something like this. So item type code equal to employees, okay, something, then deployment, okay, table equal to employee something. After that, attributes. Attributes are nothing but columns. Okay, attributes are nothing but columns. So let's say attribute. Okay, 3 attributes, right? 1, 2, 3. So first one is what? Employee ID. Second one is employee name. Are you guys are paying attention? Third one is employee salary. Like this, you will write the code. Like this, you will write the code. That's it. So that is the step number 1. Like this, you will write the code. That's the step number 1. Once you write the code, then what do? You need to do the build. So step number 2, do the build. Okay, so do the build. So let's say you click on or you perform and clean all. After and clean all, so what will be there? Model file. Okay, model file will be generated. Model file will be generated. So if item type name equal to ABC, if item type name equal to ABC, then what is the generated model file name?
ABC model.java.
Yes, very good. Generated model file name equal to ABC model.java. Now in this situation, what is the item type name here? You can see EMPS. What is the item type name? EMPS. So therefore, with EMPS, you can see model get created. EMPS model.java is created. Then what it contains? It contains the variables. So for each column, there is a variable. For each column, you can see there is a variable. Then for each column, there is a set method, get method. For each column, there is a set method, get method. Then what is the purpose of this model file? We can perform the CURD operation. That means you can create a record, you can update a record, you can delete a record, you can get the records. That's it. So this is the second step. Okay, this is the second step. Next, step number 3. So that is the second step. Step number 3, you need to start the server and go to HAC. You need to start the server, go to HAC and perform the update. You can see here, please. You can start the server. Okay, start the server and go to HAC and perform the update. So that means you can go here and click on update. You can go here, click on update. So here update. So what exactly happened when you do the update? Can you see this one, please? What happened when you do the update? This particular design will be converted into equivalent table. This particular design is converted into equivalent table when you perform update or initialization. Initialization we do first time, so next time onwards we do update. That's it. Is that clear? Is that clear? So basically 3 steps. Step number 1 is do the database modeling. Step number 2 is do the build. Then step number 3 is go to HAC and perform the update. When you perform the update, then this particular design is converted into equivalent table. If you have a Oracle database, Oracle table. If you have a HANA database, HANA table. If you have some other database, that database table will be created. Now you can see, so here employee table get created. 3 attributes are there. 3 columns get created. 3 columns get created. So that is a complete flow. That is the complete flow here. So now onwards, whenever you create a column, whenever you create a table, whenever you modify the column, whenever you create the relation, what you need to do? You need to do the item.xml file changes, do the build, go to HSE and perform the update option. Perform the update option. Okay, very good. Now let's come here, please. Okay, so these are the 3 steps. So go to item.xml file, do the design, build it, then go to start server and perform HSE update so that equivalent table will be created. Okay, now in this entire flow, you have 2 things here. One is item type is there, another one is deployment is there. Now we need to understand what happens if I am using the deployment, what happens if I don't use the deployment. Please pay attention. You need to understand very clearly these things. Okay, even though you are not using the deployment tag, it will work here. Even though you are not using this deployment tag, it will work. Then what is the deployment, or what happens if I write the deployment? What happens if I don't write the deployment? Okay, so please understand this. As I told, the first point is deploy type name or whatever name you are giving here used for SAP commerce purpose. Okay, used for SAP commerce purpose. And the deployment name used for database purpose. This is the first point you need to remember. Okay, so database purpose. We'll understand what is the meaning here. So therefore, okay, simple example. Now let's say I want to get some cart data. So I want to get the cart data. Select star from. So I need to use item type name or deployment name here. This is the commerce. So in the commerce, do I need to use item type name or deployment name?
Item
Item type name. So therefore, whenever you are doing something in the commerce, use the item type name. Then in the database, this deployment name will be created. So that means now I am writing the statement. Please understand this. If you want to create columns in your own table, so this is a nice conclusion you can understand. If you want to create columns or attributes in your own table, then go with the deployment tag. That's a simple straightforward conclusion. Then go with the deployment tag. Okay, so that means, can you please pay attention? So that means right now I am using the deployment, right? Right now I am using the deployment. That's why with the deployment name, table get created. With the deployment name, table get created, and these columns are created in that table. These columns are created in that table. That's why I'm telling, if you want to create columns or attributes in your own table, then go with deployment. That's why with deployment name, table is created and these columns are created in that table. That's it. Now, second point, what happens if I don't use the deployment? If you don't use the deployment, see the sentence, please. If you don't use the deployment tag, then columns or attributes are created. Current item type parent. Current item type parent deployment. That's it. Current item type parent deployment. That's it. So what does that mean? I'll show you the example, you can see. What does it mean? I'll show you the example, you can see. So that means, let's say if you are not using the deployment, if you don't use the deployment, current item type is what? EMPS. EMPS, if it is having a deployment, there it will store. For example, look at here, please. Let's take the example of customer. Can you see this one, please? Are you guys able to see? customer. Let's take the example of customer. Can you see this one? Customer. And this is having the attributes. Is it having the deployment? Is it having the deployment?
No, Chenna.
Okay,
No.
customer is not having the deployment. If customer is not having the deployment, then where attribute will be created? Where attribute will be created? See this. Customer. Okay, no deployment. No deployment tag. If no deployment tag, then these attributes are created. Current item type parent. What is the current item type parent?
User.
Current item type parent. Parent means extends. User. So let's go with the user. Code equal to user. So this is the user. Is this user is having the deployment?
Yes, Chenna.
Yes. So there it will be created. Is this user is having the deployment? Answer is yes. There it will be created. So we will see nice conclusions here. We will see nice conclusions. So these are very fantastic conclusions here. You need to understand. Now look at here. So this current item type parent is this one. Is that parent is having the deployment? Answer is yes. So therefore, if no deployment, then current item type attributes are created. Where? So in the current item type parent is what? Deployment. Is the deployment is having users? Yes. Or is the deployment is having a is that parent is having the deployment? Yes. What is the deployment? So users. So therefore, there is a table called users. In that users, these attributes are created. Okay, these attributes are created, and these attributes also get created. These attributes also get created. So therefore, now if I go on to see the user, can I see this customer ID? So if you go to here, go to this flexible search queries. Okay, select star from user. Okay, select star from user. If you go on to see this customer ID, can you see the customer ID? Customer. So you can see there is a customer ID. You can see there is a customer ID. So that means it is coming from here. So there is no customer ID here. There is no customer ID here. Customer ID is coming from here. So that is the advantage of deployment with deployment, without deployment. So therefore, if you use the deployment, your attributes are created. If you use the deployment, your attributes are created.
Yes.
In our own table.
Okay, so in our own table, if you don't use the deployment, then current item type parent is user. Is that user is having the deployment? Yes. If yes, in with that name table get created. In that this item type attributes and this item type attributes are created. Okay, very good. So that is what I told. Now, and we have seen that example also. You can see customer ID is there in the user. Customer ID is there in the user. That's good. Now let's go to see the one more example. Can you see this one, please? Next one more. I said this is the user and the deployment is there, and you can see there is attribute called current time. There is an attribute called current time. There is an attribute called current time. Then this current time should be there where? In the users or not? This current time should be there in the users or not?
Yes,
Yes or no? These attributes here, current time, current date, these should be in the user.
Yes.
Yes. Now let's go and observe whether we have it or not. So I executed the query. Okay. Now look for the current time. It's not there. Look for the current date. It's not there. Why? It's not there. Okay. So therefore, I said these attributes. Okay. These attributes and these attributes should be created here. That's what I told. Okay, that's what I told. But okay, but current time, current date, we are not seeing. Why? But see, current time, current date, we are not seeing. Why? We are not seeing in database. Why? Because, can you see this one, please? So whenever you create the attribute, you can specify persistent type. Persistent type and do persistent type. Can you see this one, please? So whenever you create the attribute, persistent type, you can specify. Now I am writing the conclusion. If for attribute, okay, so for attribute, if persistent type equal to, for attribute, okay, persistence type equal to property, if you write it, okay, then this will be created in database. This will be created in database. So if you specify persistence type equal to dynamic, this will not create in database. Will not create in database. This is only commerce calculation purpose. This is only for SAP commerce calculation purpose. This is only SAP commerce calculation purpose used. That's it. So that is the meaning of persistent type equal to dynamic, persistent type equal to property. So you can see here persistent type equal to property is there. That's why this is created in database. That's why you will see customer ID. Just now I shown you customer ID is there. Customer ID is there. Now these are what are dynamic. If you see here, these are all dynamic. Okay, so this one, all these are dynamic. If dynamic, these will not create in the database. That's why you are not able to find. So therefore, these are just for commerce calculation purpose used. So that means current time, do you get from the database or you get through coding here? So simple example, here itself we can see current time, current date, do you get from database or do you get through calculations? Current time. Whenever you want a current time, whenever you want a current date, do you get from database or you just write some functions?
Functions.
Huh? So you write some calculated function like a get time, okay, get a date, like that functions are there. With that function you can get it. Don't get from database. So this is the best example here. When to keep an attribute in the database, when to keep attribute not in the database. Current time, current date, you don't need to keep, you don't need to get from database. Current time, current date is what? You can write some calculation here. So let's say, so cart page controller, let's say cart page controller. Now you did some calculations. So here you want a current time. Then you can say system dot get a current time millis, like that. You can write the functions and store that in the current time, store that in the current date, and so on, so on. So to store that in the current times, to store that in the current date, you need the attribute, you need the variable. That's why you create it as a persistent type equal to dynamic. I am slowly introducing one by one here. That's why you can say persistent type equal to dynamic. Can you recollect once, please? So whenever you are creating the item type, you can keep the deployment or no need deployment. If you keep the deployment, then these columns will be created in your own table. And we have seen the proof here. Okay, customer. Okay, customer is not having the deployment. That's why it is storing in the customer. Okay, if no deployment, current item type parent. If that parent is having deployment, then it will be created, and we have seen the proof. Okay, at the same time, so you can see here what is the statement I told. So in this situation, these item type attributes will be created in the database, I told. But current time, current date are not created in database. Why these are not created in the database? Because whenever you create the attribute, if you specify persistent type equal to property, it will be created in the database. If you specify persistent type equal to dynamic, will not be created in the database. So for example, current time, current date, you will not get from database here. Current time, current date means what you will keep in the database? The value which is not very current. So current time, current date, you need to get through calculations by using some functions. At that moment, what is the time, what is the date and all. So that's why these are used for calculation, commerce calculation purpose. These are getting from the database. That is the meaning of persistent type equal to property, persistent type equal to dynamic. And please remember this here. Whenever you don't remember the meaning, you can hover it here, you will get it. You can hover it, you will get the help. You can hover it, you will get the help. Now you can see here, persistent type equal to property I told you, dynamic I told you. You can also use a CMP and Jalo. You can also use a CMP and Jalo. CMP and Jalo are deprecated. CMP and Jalo are deprecated, don't use it. So we have only two values now, property and dynamic. So CMP and Jalo are deprecated, no use. That's it. CMP, Jalo are deprecated, no use. That's it. Now let's come back to our original discussion, deployment. Now you understand what is the meaning of deployment. So what happens if you use the deployment? What happens if you don't use the deployment? So if you don't use the deployment, then current attributes will be created in the current item type parent. If that parent is having a deployment, there it will create. If that parent is having a deployment, there it will create. It will, and so on, so on, so on. Then if you want your own table, then use the deployment. Next, if you see the deployment, okay, if you see the deployment, can you see this one, please? So deployment is having the type code here. So what is the use of the deployment type code? You can see here, please. So here there is one certification question you need to understand. So therefore deployment, and there is a type code. Are you guys paying attention? Okay, so this is the type code. So what is the meaning of type code? So please remember this, type code's range is 0 to 32,767. 767. So we can't use negatives. Okay, we don't use, it is not negative. So therefore it starts from 0 to 32,767. That's good. 0 to 32,767. That's good. Now the next point is, okay, so these are the unique numbers given for your tables. Unique numbers given for your tables in the system. Okay, so now, okay, please remember this, less than 10K numbers SAP will use. After 10K you can use. This is the thumb rule here. So that means whenever you are creating a table, okay, whenever you are creating a table, what is the type code you should use? Use the type code of after 10K. Don't use less than 10K. Let's say today, okay, let's say, okay, today SAP Commerce. Okay, let's say today SAP Commerce. Can you see this one, please? SAP Commerce version is 2011. And you created one table and used, let's say 259 type code. Okay, it may work today. Okay, it may work today. But what happens when you upgrade? So let's say you upgrade to 2205. 2205, and in 2205, in 2205, assume that SAP Commerce already using this 259. Then you have the problem. Is that clear? Then you have the problem. That's why what is the that's why what is the general syntax? That's why what is the best practice here?
About 10,000.
Use the type codes after 10K so that SAP will not use those. That is the general understanding between development team and the SAP team. Because SAP is also adding the tables, SAP also doing the coding, SAP also doing lots of things in the coming versions. So they may create a new table. When they create the new table, they also need some numbering. So let's say 259 is not used by SAP in the current version. You have used it. No problem, it will work. But what happens when you upgrade it? Assume that during the when you upgrade to 2205, in the 2205 SAP has used that. If SAP has used that, then it will fail. So to avoid this kind of challenges, you please use after 10K numbers, because after 10K SAP will not touch. So before 10K, whatever they have the rights to touch. So this is how, whenever you create the database table, you can give the unique number for it. Okay, you can give the unique number for it to representation purpose instead of characters, because characters can have uppercase, lowercase. You may have challenges. So if it is a number, do you see any numbers uppercase, lowercase and all? Okay, do you see numbers uppercase, lowercase and all? Are you guys are there?
No.
No. Okay. So that's it. So that's why you need to give the unique number. But if you don't give the unique number, SAP Commerce will give some unique number. We don't need to worry. But it is better to give it. Okay, good. Now let's come back one more time. So we have seen what is the meaning of deployment, and we have seen what happens if you use the deployment, what happens if you don't use the deployment, and we have seen what is the meaning of persistent type equal to property and persistent type equal to dynamic. Persistent type equal to property and persistent type equal to dynamic. Now let's see one more scenario. Can you see this one, please? Yeah, let's see one more scenario. Are you guys are there?
Yes, Chenna.
Yes, sir.
Okay, same user only I will take. Let's take the user only and try to observe. You can see there is a shipping address, which is a persistent type equal to property. That's good. Okay. I will take three scenarios. Okay. One is the current time. Okay. Another one is, okay. One is persistent type equal to dynamic, persistent type equal to property. And this is what? Okay. Same. This is also same. I want to use something different, so that I will cover that scenario. Let me see if I have that scenario here. I will take it. Let's go to the product table because it's not here. That scenario is not in this item type. So let's go to the product table. I can show you. Okay. So this is the product table. First one is that is good. Okay. Then persistent type, all those things. Remaining you can keep aside here. We'll study one by one. Okay. Second one is also good. Okay. That is good. So first one, second one, third one is it is the same, so I don't need to worry about now again. That's it. What are these many less attributes? Anyway. Okay, now you can see here, please. We have seen what is the meaning of persistent type equal to property, persistent type equal to dynamic. We have seen. Now let's observe these two scenarios now. Can you observe this one, please? Can you observe this one, please? Now you take the product. Okay, you take the product Now, if you observe the product, it is having two attributes. What are the two attributes here? Can you see this one, please? We have two attributes. The first one is product code, and the second one is product name. First one is product code, second one is product name. First one is product code, second one is product name. And what is the difference between product code and product name? So it is a normal string, it is a localized string. This meaning I shown you yesterday. This meaning I shown you yesterday. What is the meaning of normal string? What is the meaning of localized string?
Multiple boxes for language specific.
So name you can enter for language specific. So here only one box, and you can see this is a property, this is a property. So that means both will be created in database. Okay, both will be created in database. Now, is it having the deployment? Is it having the deployment? Is it having a deployment? Yes. So that means so there is a table created called products. There is a table created called products. In that, what is the expectation? In that, what is the expectation? Product code should be there, product name should be there, and so on, so on, right? So this is the expectation, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Now let's go and observe the product. Okay. Select star from product. Execute it. Select star from product. Okay. So execute it, or otherwise you can just go here, execute it. Okay. We are getting the results. Now, can you see this one? What is the first one? Can you come here, please? First one is what? Product code. Let's observe the product code. Am I having the product code? Yes. Am I having the product code? Yes. Next one is what? Product name. Product name is localized, right? One second here. Let's look at this. One second. So let's go to the user. So here it's a localized, but it's a dynamic. Dynamic means it is not creating database. Okay, so let's take this example, string. Let's, one thing is you need to remember is, okay, can you remember this one, please? If you go to flexible search query, this is the commerce. Let me write the native query. Select star from products. So this is the actual database query. Actual database query. Yeah, this is the correct one here. So you can see product code is available. Then product name. See, you don't find the product name. Yeah, this is how you need to understand. Can you see this one, please? What is the difference between these two? Are you guys are paying attention? Are you guys are paying attention? So if you go to the flexible search query, okay, let me explain one more time this flexible search queries and all. What is the meaning of flexible search query? So let's say I have a employee table. So we have two terminologies here, impexes, flexible search queries. You need to understand what is the meaning of this. So there is a impexes, flexible search queries. Let's say I have a employee table. Now I have a employee ID, employee name, employee salary. So let's say 101, Chenna, $10. Okay, 102, okay, triple RS, 102, triple RS, let's say $15. So this is what the table I have, table and table data. So now the question is how to insert a record, how to insert the record. how to update the record, how to delete the record, how to delete the record. So these are the 3 questions. So the answer for all these questions is IMPEX. The answer for all these 3 questions is IMPEX. So that means, let's say Santosh is telling that, hey, I am writing the IMPEX. What do you understand from that? He might be inserting a record or updating a record or deleting a record. Okay, then what is the question missing? Okay, what is the question missing? Fourth question is how to get the records. So if you want to get the records, so the answer is flexible search queries. Flexible search queries. So now you can see a place. So here you have 2 options. Okay, can you see this one? Flexible search query and query. What is the difference between flexible search query and query? So flexible search query is nothing but the one which we seen just now, SAP Commerce one. This is the SAP Commerce representation. Then in the same place, there is a SQL query. So SQL query means database query. Okay, so database query. That's it. So that means how you write the query in the Oracle, how you write the query in the normal database. That is how you write it. That is how you write it. That's it. Okay. Now, can you come back here, please? Can you come back here, please? Can you come back here? Can you come back here? Okay. So now we have a product table or a product type which is having 2 columns. Product code and the product name. Product code is the string and the product name is the localized string. Now our expectation is what? This is a property, this is the property, both should be there in the database. Now I will go here and write the database query. Select star from products. Products. You can see database query means you need to give the deployment. Okay, you need to give the deployment products. Okay, execute it. Now I am getting the results. If you go on to see, product code is there. Now if you search product name, it's not there. Why? So you can see product code is there. This is yes, and the product name no. Why? What happened? So product name, if you see, it's not there. Okay, product name is not available in the database. Product name is not available in database. Why? Because it's a localized attribute. Because it's a localized attributes. Localized attributes will be stored in localized attributes. Stored in localized attributes stored in different table, which is nothing but products LP table. Products LP table. That's it here. So this is the products, then products LP. So can you go and observe the products LP now? Products LP table. LP means localized properties. Execute it. Now you can see that name is available. Are you able to see the name? Are you
Yes,
able to see? Yes. So that means, so the attributes, the normal attributes are stored in the table directly, and the localized attributes stored in the LP table. If we have a products LP. If we have a cards LP. If you have an order LP. Like that, you have a different table created. There, this localized columns, localized attributes will be created. Now, if you have any questions, you can ask me, please.
This conference will now be recorded.
All right. So that is the diagram we explained here. And this is also just now I told item.xml file. This item.xml file, you build it. Okay, then you get the, first write the item.xml file, build it, then you get the model file. With the model file, you can perform the CURD operations. This we have seen yesterday. And you perform the update, then table get created. Then table get created. That's it. Next, one important thing is that this is one important thing here. Can you observe here, please? Can you observe? Let's go to the product table again. Are you guys paying attention?
Yes, sir. Now.
Okay. So can you see this one, please? This is the product table. And so here we are creating a product code. Product code is right now what a string, right? Product code right now what string? Product code right now is what string. Okay, I just mentioned string. Now if I go to the database, let me go to the database. If I go to the database, let me go to the database. This is one of the nice conclusion here. This is again certification question. Okay, so if I go to the database, so this is the product code. Product code is nothing but article number, right? Product code is nothing but the article number. You can see. So this article number is the display name and the actual coding is code. So this is the one. So this is the equivalent one for it. So in the database, so this is the equivalent one for that. In the database, this is the equivalent one for that. That's good. In the database, this is the equivalent one for that. That's good. Now can you guys pay attention? Can you guys pay attention? I just mentioned the string here. Then the question here is, string means what? 2 characters is a string. Okay, 1 lakh characters also string. How much length I can store here? That's the question. Is that clear? So the question is, so if you say Chennai is a string, that means 5 characters. 50 characters also string. 1 lakh characters also string. 6 also string. So therefore question is, how many characters we can store here? Okay, so here we mentioned it as a string. If it is a string, how many characters it will allow? Okay, now see this one, please. I will just okay, I'm just keeping a big string here. Let's see what happens. Okay, I just kept a big string. Click on save. See, it is giving the error. What is the error? Can you see this one, please? What is the error? Unable to update this one because because it is telling that apparel product catalog said unexpected error during the object update. So therefore the conclusion is, okay, so therefore the conclusion is it will allow 255 characters. So here 3 questions are there here. So the answer is, if at all you are mentioning string, it will allow 355 characters. If at all you are mentioning string, it will allow 255 characters. Now you should ask a question. See, I am mentioning string in the SAP Commerce. This is a nice explanation here. So in the SAP Commerce, I am mentioning the string. But in the database, it is allowing 255 characters. How it is possible? There should be some place this mapping, right? There should be some place about this mapping, right? See, in SAP Commerce, we mentioned string. In database, okay, in database, it's allowing 255 characters. So that means there can be some place where this is defined, right? That means there can be some place where this mapping is defined, yes or no?
Yes.
So what is that place? That is a question asked in the certification. So that place is nothing but, okay, that place is nothing but core hyphen core advanced what happened? One second.
Core advanced deployment.
Core star advanced item deployment here. You can see. So therefore, the answer is core hyphen advanced hyphen deployment.xml file. So in that the mappings are available. Okay, in that the mappings are available. Okay, so in that the mappings are available. So therefore the answer is core hyphen advanced hyphen deployment.xml. In that mapping are available. So now see the beauty of this one here. Okay, so here you mentioned a string. Here you mentioned a string. Then if your database is SAP, if your database is SAP, then string meaning is 255. If your database is Oracle, string meaning is this kind of thing, varchar 255. If your database is HSQLDB, okay, varchar 255, it's not a varchar 2. If your database is MySQL, then varchar 255. If your database is SQL Server, then this one. If your database is PostgreSQL, then this one. If your database is something else, then this one, this one. Like that, for every database, there is a mapping defined. That's why SAP Commerce is database independent. It's not worrying about what is your database. You can just mention the string here. You can just mention the string here. SAP Commerce knows what to do with the string. If it is a database SAP, if database is Oracle, if database is MySQL, if database is MS SQL. That is the power of the SAP Commerce. That's why SAP Commerce is database independent. Okay. Now let's say you are mentioning here. Okay. So, okay. Let's say, can you see this one, please? Description. Description is again a localized string. Okay, now we have seen where the meaning is defined. Can you please pay attention? So therefore, whenever you mention the string, it is going to allow 255 characters. So what happens if I want more than 255 characters? So the question is, what if we want greater than 255 characters? So then specify long string. Specify long string. For example, you can see this one, please, long string. Then you can ask a question. If I specify long string, what is the length allowed? If we specify long string, what length is allowed? Is that clear? Okay, so therefore that is nothing but 4,000 characters or 5,000 characters, depends upon the database. Then where can we see that meaning? So long string. Can you see this one, please? Long string. Then go here. If your database is SAP, SAP means HANA. In the HANA, long string meaning is how many characters? Long string meaning is how many characters?
4,000 to 5,000.
You can see here.
5,000.
5,000 characters. Now, if your database is Oracle, then long string is how many characters?
4,000.
4,000 characters. If HSQL is your database, then long string is this much. Okay, so then if you have MySQL database, then the long string is text. Like this, you have the equivalent meanings are defined. That's why SAP Commerce is database independent. That's why SAP Commerce is database independent. It is not worrying whether you have Oracle. See, when I am coding it, can you see this one, please? When I am coding it, I am not worrying about, I am not coding anything to Oracle. I am not coding anything to HANA. I am not coding anything to MS SQL. I am just coding description, long string. Then long string is already defined the meaning here. So based on that, equivalent database columns get created. Now you should ask one more question. What is the question you should ask? Okay, if I specify long string 4,000 or 5,000, what happens if you want more than 5,000 characters? What happens if you want greater than 5,000 characters? So then go with the C log, character log. So character log means it will allow 2 GB, 4 GB. So that's why you can see here. That's why you can see here. So you can see there is a C log. C log means a character log. So character log means it will allow 2 GB, 3 GB like that. Very big strings it will allow. So do you have any database column content which is more than 2 GB? Do you have any database column content which is more than 2 GB? Mostly no, right? That's where we are good here. That's where we are good here. So this is how you can specify string, long string, C log, and the equivalents are mentioned, equivalent meanings are mentioned here. One more nice point here. You can see sometime you are mentioning java.lang.string. Okay, java.lang.string. Okay, sometimes you are just mentioning string. Okay, you can see sometimes we are just mentioning string. Then what is the difference? That difference also you can find here. Can you see this one, please? If at all you are mentioning java.lang.string, it will allow these many characters. If at all you are mentioning just a string, okay, just a string, this one. Let me show you the other difference. Some people says java.lang.integer, okay, and just integer. This I will show the difference here. Okay, just integer. Okay, you can see just integer. So you can see the difference. If you specify java.lang.integer, okay, if you specify java.lang.integer, then it is going to allow a big int, that is fine. But if you specify just integer, can you see? If you specify just integer, it is going to allow big int and set the default value with a 0. So that means this is the meaning here. This is a nice meaning you need to understand. Let's say I am creating 2 columns. So column 1 I said as java.lang.integer, integer. So column 1 I said java.lang.integer, then column 2 just integer. Sorry, integration is the word which we use very frequently, right? Okay, good. So column 1 java.lang.integer, just integer. Now in the database I have a column 1 and I have a column 2, and I have something else. Now I am trying to, so let's say I have column 3. Okay, let's say this is the ID. Column 3 is nothing but ID. So let's say now I am writing a insert statement like this. Insert, okay, so let's say this table is the employee. Okay, insert into employee values. I will just pass ID here. I will not pass anything else. Okay, I'll just pass ID. I will not pass anything else. I'll just pass ID. I will not pass anything else. Then what will the result tell me? So the results will be, so you passed the ID, right? So therefore, you passed the ID. So therefore, what happened? This one, right? Okay. So therefore, column 1 you did not enter, so it will be empty. Column 2 you did not enter, and if you simply integer, what is the default value it will set? 0. What is the default value? 0. Then ID become 1011. Like this, you have the values in the database. Is that clear, everyone? Is that clear, everyone? What is the meaning of java.lang.integer and integer? Integers are nothing but the primitives. Java.lang.integer is a wrapper classes. So it's a primitive types. These are all called primitive types. These are called wrapper types. That's it. This is one more difference you need to understand. Similarly, if you specify, let's say double, java.lang.double. So then total 30 digits are allowed. Out of the 30 digits, 8 digits are after decimal point. 8 digits are after decimal point. Now if you say just double, total 30 digits are allowed. After out of the 30 digits, 8 digits are after decimal, and if you don't enter the value, what is the default value? What is the default value?
0.
So Like this, equivalent meanings are defined here. Like this, equivalent meanings are defined here. So as we have for each database, there is a equivalent meanings defined here. Based on that, our database get created. Based on that, our tables get created. Hence, SAP Commerce is database independent. So many people ask here. Okay, so many people ask the question, oh, what happens if I change the database? In case of SAP Commerce, even though you change the database, nothing is going to happen. The reason is SAP Commerce is database independent because it will take care based on the, I will just write the design. I will just mention the string. Then string needs to convert into varchar to or text. All these things are defined in the item core-advanced-deployment.xml. Based on that, my table get created, my columns get created. Hence, SAP Commerce is
Database independent.
database independent. Thank you. So that's what it is mentioned here. You can see string. Then here you mentioned. So that's why in the database 255 get created. Okay. Then this just now I explained user. Then so you can see that user. Then user table get created. Just now I explained this. Okay. So with item type name is used for commerce purpose. Deployment name is used for database purpose. That's why users is there in the database. Okay, next addresses is there in the database. Address is used in the commerce, so that means in the flexible search queries, in the coding and all, address is used. Addresses is for the database purpose. So that is what it is explained, all these things. Next one is, okay, so this also I just now explained, right? Okay, 255 characters, all these things I explained. Current item type parent. Just now I explained current item type parent. Can you see this example, please? So here I have this. It is not having the deployment. So here I have this. It is having the deployment. So one more point you need to remember is, in the latest versions, deployment is a tag. You can see deployment is a tag. In the old versions, deployment is kind of a attribute like this. Are you guys paying attention? In the old versions, deployment is kind of an attribute like this, property like this. But in the latest version, it is a separate tag. Is that clear difference? In the old versions, deployment is mentioned like this. In the latest version, it is a separate tag. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Good. So now can you observe this one please once? Same example, whatever I told, this is written in a different way. So you can see, so here I have default value expression, which is extend the attribute descriptor. No deployment. Now this is the attribute descriptor with deployment. And here there is a DVV attribute, here DV attribute. Then both will be created where? You can see. Both will be created in the deployment name called attribute descriptor. In the attribute descriptor, this is created, this is created. That is what I mentioned here. Is that clear? This diagram. Just now we discussed, but here it is explained with a different example.
Yes, Chen, it's clear.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, it is same as customer and user example. This is same as customer and user example. So here I have a item type without deployment. Here I have a item type with deployment. So this item type is extending, okay, this item type. So that means, and this is having a deployment. So therefore, this column, this attribute, this column, this attribute will be created in this deployment. So that's why with this deployment, table got created and both are available here. This attribute is available, this attribute available in the database. This is what just now we discussed. Okay, next, this is one more nice example here. This is one more nice example. Then core-item.xml file, just now I discussed it. Core advanced deployment.xml. Core-advanced deployment.xml, just now we discussed it. And this address, this one we discussed it. Localized attributes, we discussed it. So these are all the localized attributes, we discussed it. That LP table, do you remember LP table? Just now I covered it. LP table also we discussed it. Okay, that's it. Now let's come back to one scenario. This is one more nice scenario we need to cover now. Yes, this is one more nice scenario here. This is one of the first scenario happened for me when I am working in the first project. Okay, let's see how many people understands and answer it. So I'm just deleting the necessary things. So we will add one by one. Okay, we cannot repeat this here. So please listen first time itself, because if I am repeating, it will take another 10 minutes. So listen carefully first time itself. Are you guys are there?
Yes, sir.
Question.
Good. Good. I'm just deleting. Okay. We'll code one by one. Okay. Now see the scenario, please. See the scenario, please. The scenario is, okay. So do we have SAP people? In the SAP system, so there is a material plant table, right? Yes or no? In the SAP, there is a material plant table. Then I was asked to create same in SAP Commerce and completed with plant code, plant name, plant description. Plant code, plant name, plant description. This is what done. So you can see plant code, plant name, plant description. This is what done. Okay, customer started entering the data. Customer started entering the data. As I said here, so we cannot repeat this. Listen first time itself carefully. In the SAP system, there is a material plant table. Then, okay, then the requirement is, okay, the requirement is, okay, ask to create same in SAP Commerce. So therefore, material plant table created with the plant code, plant name, plant description in SAP Commerce. In SAP Commerce, then customer entered the data. You can see customer entered the data. Okay, customer entered data. Let's say after 20 days. Okay, client. So client, I will put client. Okay, after 20 days, client asked to add 2 more columns. So let's say there is a value center, profit center. Are you guys aware of this value center, profit center, SAP people? Okay, after 20 days, client asked to add 2 more columns. Client asked to add 2 more columns, value center, profit center. Are you aware of value center, profit center, SAP people? Okay, so if you are not, that's okay here. Can you see this one, please? So we have created a SAP Commerce table called material plant with the plant code, plant name, plant description, and the customer entered the data or client entered the data. Then after few days, they asked me to create 2 more columns called value center, profit center, and I coded it. Where do we code it? Tell me. Where do we code it? We code in the items.xml. So in the item.xml, we coded it. So I coded it. After coding, I have done the build, I have done the update. I have done the build, I have done the update. Then you can see value center, profit center got created. Okay, so here I mentioned the string. So therefore, with the 255 length, those got created. With the 255 length, those got created. With the 255 length, those got created. Fine. Okay, so then coded it. So everything is fine. We can see the attributes. Then client again started entering the data. Client again started entering the data. Now you can see client again started entering the data. So you can see client again started entering the data. After entering some data, then client observed that this value center, profit center, okay, so this value center and profit center, they want only 10 characters. They want only 10 characters, but when they ask, they did not tell 10 characters. They just said create value center, profit center, and we created with a string. String means what? It will allow 255 characters. String means what? It will allow 255 characters. Now after few days, you can see after few days, business asked to change it to 10 characters because it is allowing 255 characters. Is that clear, Flo? Then again started writing the code. And putting the limitation. You can see. So we can write. There is one excellent advantage with the SAP Commerce here. So you can see whenever you create the attribute or column, you can specify if Oracle, what is the length you want? If MS SQL, what is the length you want? If MySQL, what is the length you want? Like this, you can specify. That is one of the great feature we have in the SAP Commerce. Are you guys paying attention? So customer asked me to reduce the length of this one to 10 characters. Value center, profit center, they asked me to reduce the 10 characters. Then what did I do? So then again return the coding. So profit center, persistent type equal to property. Then if it is a Oracle, 10 characters. If it is something, 10 characters. If something, 10 characters. Like that I defined. And for profit center also, for value center, profit center, for both we defined 10 characters, 10 characters, 10 characters, like that. Everything is correct. Everything is correct. Then I have completed the build. I have completed the update also. After build, after update, what is the expected output? After build, after update, what is the expected output?
Column should be 10.
Okay, column should be 10 character length. So these two should be 10 character length, but it is not coming to 10. Still, it is 255 only. Why? What is the reason? So the expected output is 10 characters, but 10 characters are not coming. Still 255 characters only. So my code is correct. Everything is correct here. Still 255 is it allowing? It is not allowing only 10 characters, even though my code is correct. What could be the reason?
We can only increase the size, we can't decrease, because data will be there, it will be truncated.
Okay, so please remember this here. My code is correct, everything is correct. Even though everything is correct, still it is allowing 255 characters, because the reason is we have one database rule. What is the database rule? When data is there, okay, when data is there, increase size is possible. Okay, decrease size not possible. Is that clear? Increase size is possible, decrease size is not possible. That is the rule dominating my code. That is the rule dominating our SAP Commerce code. That's why it is not happening. That's why it is not happening. Then what to do now? Okay, then what to do? So solution one, you can, instead of init, you can do the initialization. If you do the initialization, it will work here, no problem. But if I do the initialization, all the data will be lost. So therefore, what are the solutions? Solution one is initialization. If you perform the initialization, it will work. But the problem is all the data will be lost. Now in the running project, if you ask, I want to do initialization, then mostly they will not agree. Then what to do? So second option is you can export that data. Okay, you can export the data. Okay, drop those columns and perform HSC update again. So those columns get created. Drop those columns which are 255 and perform HSC update, then those columns get created.
How do we drop the using SQL DML statements?
Yes, yes. Okay, so third option is what? Third option is you can put the limitations. Okay, let value center and profit center be 255 characters. Let value center, profit center be 255 characters, but when customer enters, okay, when customer or client enter it, put the limitation. That means write the validations. When client enter, put the limitation. Limitation means validations. So that means if at all they entered more than 10 characters, tell that, hey, you are eligible to enter only 10 characters or less. You cannot enter more than 10. Like that, you can have the solutions. Like that, you can have the solutions. This is one of the nice scenario you need to remember. That's what here. Whenever you attend the interview, people ask, oh, did you work on the data modeling? People says yes. See this here, how you need to convince the interviewer. Whenever you attend the interview, people ask, did you work with the data modeling? People says yes. Then what did you work? People says, I created a table, I created the columns. Okay, why did you create tables? Why did you create columns here? Instead of that, let's say someone is asking me, hey, did you work on the data modeling? Now I will tell like this. I will say yes. Then they will ask the question, can you explain what did you work? Okay, in my project, we have a material plan table in the SAP. So my client is asking me to replicate that material plan table in SAP Commerce. So initially I created material plan table with the plant code, plant name, plant description. Then client started entering the data. After that, they asked me to create two more columns, value center, profit center. I created it. So when they have given the requirement, they did not mention that value center, profit center should be only 10 characters. So I just mentioned as a string which is created 255 characters. Then client started entering the data. Then again they come back to me and asking me, hey, they want only 10 characters. Then again I have modified the code and performed the update. Results was not showing. Still it is allowing 255 characters because there is a database rule which is dominating my code, which is nothing but when data is there in the database column, then increasing side is possible, decreasing is not possible. That means 255 to 400 I can make, 255 to 10 I cannot make. That's why we have the challenge. Then what are the solutions? Initialization, drop those columns and create it and put the validations and so on and so on. So now you tell me which is the more effective to prove that you worked. Telling I created a columns, I created columns, I created tables is more effective, or telling this kind of example is more effective?
Examples.
Example.
Okay. So that will tell that, okay, you really worked. So this is how start practicing it. Okay. So that's the example I explained here. Then this is what we discussed also. That's it. These are the different things. Okay. So I'll complete this, then we can, okay. One more thing is that, okay, let's complete this slide. Yeah, let's complete. Just now I told, right? So this is also we completed. We can have item.xml files in many places. What are we trying to do in the item.xml files? Type system. That means we are designing the tables. Then those tables will be converted into equivalent, those types are converted into equivalent tables when you perform initialization or when you perform update. Okay. This is one more nice example here. Let's focus on this one. This is one more nice example. Let's focus on this one. After finishing this, then maybe we can take or we can continue tomorrow after finishing this. But let's finish this. Can you come here? Can you come here, please? Let me close the unnecessary windows. Okay, now look at here, please. Let's say you are working in Java project or .NET project. Let's say you are working in Java project or .NET project. If you are working in Java project or .NET project, if you are working in Java project or .NET project, in case of Java project, .NET project, where you do the database design means to create a table, create a column and all, you do in the respective database. You do in the respective database. That means, let's say you are working in Java project or .NET project. Let's say today Oracle is there. Today Oracle is there, and tomorrow you want to go with MySQL. Then it is altogether 2-3 months project. The reason is, so in case of Java project, .NET project, you create the table here, you create the table here, you create the column here. Same thing you need to do for MySQL also. The reason is, every database will have its own types. So you can see MySQL, there is a big int, Oracle number is there. So here blob is there. So here raw is there. Like that, there is a difference. That's why in case of Java project, .NET project, if you want to move from Oracle to MySQL, it's altogether 2-3 months of project. Because what is the reason? In case of Java project, .NET project, you do the database design in the database itself. That means you are writing the statements specific to the database. You are writing the statements specific to the database. That's why you need to redo again. Now, what happens in case of SAP Commerce? In case of SAP Commerce, we don't do the database design here. We don't do the database design here. We don't do the database design here. We do the database design here. In the SAP Commerce, we do the database design. In the SAP Commerce, we do the database design. Can you guys pay attention? In the SAP Commerce, we do the database design. Now, let's say you have today Oracle, then do the initialization or update. When you do the initialization, this database design is converted into equivalent Oracle tables. That's it. Equivalent Oracle tables. That's it here. Now, let's say after 100 days, you want to go to MySQL. Then just change it to MySQL and perform initialization. MySQL tables get created. Then after 200 days, you want to go with HANA. Then just configure the HANA database. How to configure the database? I already explained. How to configure the database? I already explained. Just configure the database and just do the initialization. Then HANA database get created. So that means SAP Commerce is responsible. Can you guys pay attention? SAP Commerce is responsible to convert this database design into equivalent tables when you perform initialization. That's why SAP Commerce is database independent. That's why SAP Commerce is database independent. Is that clear?
Yes, Chenna, this is clear.
Okay.
Hey,
Now
Chenna,
the
quick
next
question. Sorry, Chenna, a quick question. When we say HANA here, it's C for HANA, right?
Here, please. Okay. Next thing here is that. So let's say this is where we have done the database design. This is where we have done the database design. And today we have Oracle 9i. Today we have Oracle 9i. And you have performed the initialization. Table get created, column get created. Please understand this scenario. Table get created, column get created. Then my company entered the data. My company entered the data. My company entered the data. Then after 100 days, let's say my company want to go with Oracle 10G. My company want to go with Oracle 10G. Then I will change it to Oracle 10G and perform the initialization. Then tables get created. Okay, columns get created. Then what about my data? What about my data? Now, so that means you need to migrate the data also, right? To migrate the data, we have two options. Is the source system and target system is the same vendor? Is the source system, target system, source database, target database is from the same vendor? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. If it is the same vendor, then you can use Oracle export to export the data, Oracle import to import the data. That is the solution 1. Next, or you can also use SAP Commerce Impexes to export the data, SAP Commerce Impexes to import the data. So this is how you can migrate the data from Oracle 9i to 10G if it is the same vendor. What happens if it is a different vendor? What happens if it is a different vendor? Let's see that also. What happens if it is a different vendor? Can you see this one please here? So here we have done the database design, then performed the initialization today, and the table get created, column get created. And what is that database? Oracle 9i. Then my company entered the data. Now after 100 days, my company decided to go with HANA. Then I change it to HANA settings and perform the initialization. Tables get created, column get created. What about my data? Now, if you observe here is my source database, target database is from the same vendor or different vendor?
Different vendor.
Different vendor. So here it is a Oracle, here it is a SAP. If it is a different vendor, you cannot use vendor specific export import commands. You can only use SAP Commerce Impexes to export the data, Impexes to import the data. So therefore, in this scenario, you have only one solution. In this scenario, you have two solutions. This is how you can manage the data also.
But Impex,
This is how you can manage the data also. That's all for today. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask. Else we'll continue tomorrow.
how can we read